My name is Arthur, and today I want to talk about top 5 accessories that I think will level up your photography game, whether you're doing car photography, street photography, any kind of niche that you're in. These accessories will definitely help you improve and just speed up your workflow so you can focus on the actual craft rather than the technology around it. Without further ado, here's my list in no particular order. Number 1 is a paperclip. This is more probably to people that like to travel a lot when they take photos, so whether you're a travel photographer or a street photographer, this is quite good as it allows you to attach the clip to your backpack strap, or in my case I like to have it on my belt. It also has a locking mechanism, so if you're afraid of someone maybe stealing it, no one will be able to come in and jank it. So definitely a must if you move around with a camera a lot and you want to step up your game compared to a neck strap. Number 2 is, it's more of a series of accessories, but nevertheless, filters. The more the better. Let's elaborate. I would say probably the filter that I use the most is a Pro Mist filter. They're also known as light diffusion filters or black diffusion filters. I think there's a variety of names, but essentially these filters soften the highlights a little bit and they make the image a bit softer, a bit more cinematic, if you will. I find that with digital cameras, oftentimes the image is quite sharp and not artificial, but seems quite digital. Having one of these filters can even out the image and make it a bit softer and more pleasing to the eye. They come in different strengths. This one is 1/4. And the one that's on the camera right now is 1/8, and you can get them for a variety of prices, but honestly they all kind of do a similar thing. Next up we have a variable ND filter. It's really important for people that like to shoot in the scorching sun outside, as this allows you to control how much light is getting into the camera. Similar to the aperture and shutter speed, which kind of dictates how much light you're getting into the sensor. This just gives you another layer of controlling the light without affecting the actual quality of the image. So you can keep your aperture wide open and control the light that gets in through the filter. Let me show you. You might be able to see me through the filter, but as I twist it, you can see it goes completely black. So definitely worth adding it to your arsenal if you're planning on shooting outdoors, because honestly, if you're trying to shoot at aperture of 22, your image is not going to look as buttery smooth. Moving on to circular polarizer filters. These are really good for car photography and if you're shooting water or if you're shooting anything that has to do with reflections. Really useful, definitely a savior. Similarly to the variable ND filter, you can twist this and you can essentially control how much light is being reflected from surfaces. Usually it can remove a little, maybe most of the light, but definitely not all of it. So you can shoot through windows, you can shoot cars, water, and essentially remove some of the reflections, but there's still gonna be a little bit left. So just be wary of that. Another thing is, this is one of those filters that you can just keep on your lens and it's not really gonna affect your image that much unless you need the reflections. So if you feel like it, you can have it on your lens. It does make the images a little bit darker, so a thing to keep in mind. Definitely a good accessory to have. Okay, 2.4, I think. These are not really filters, but I thought I'd mention it. I could do this all day. Step-up rings. These are really useful for when you have a lot of lenses and you have different filters and you don't want to buy, let's say, 3 variable ND filters for different lenses. Step-up rings allow you to essentially adapt bigger filters to smaller diameter lenses. Really useful for if you have multiple lenses. So if you're like me, having multiple lenses means that you'll have different diameters for each lens, and usually a rule of thumb is to buy a filter for your biggest lens and then buy adapter rings for every other lens that you have. You can get these for £3, £4, I don't know, that's like $5, so definitely worth adding it to your inventory. I know it's not a filter, but it's within that realm and I thought I'd mention it anyway. All right, let's move on to number 3. Action camera. This one here is the DJI Action 2. And reason why I love having this camera is because it's very small and you can attach it to your neck with one of the lanyards. And I just find it really useful for when I want to capture certain things around me, have a different perspective of the photos I take, and kind of document the process, you know, kind of having behind the scenes footage, which is quite cool. It's small, it's compact, doesn't really take up much space. So if you have the budget for it, definitely invest in one of the action cameras. There's plenty out there, so if you're in the market, have a look, do some research. I can definitely recommend the DJI Action 2. If you're going for something more advanced, GoPro's probably your go-to. This leads me on to number 4, which is AirPods. I know you're thinking this is not really a photography item, but still a lifesaver, especially for people who do street photography or who go out to take photos on their own. Having AirPods or wireless headphones has helped me a lot, especially if you just don't want to interact with people, you're feeling a bit anxious going out taking street photos. Just pop them in, turn on some music, put on a podcast that you've been meaning to listen to, and just, you know, feel comfortable. That's the whole point. So AirPods, or again, any wireless headphones, definitely should get them and definitely should have them with you if you're shooting alone. Number 5, we have memory cards. Again, they're not necessarily gonna change your images, but they're gonna speed up your workflow a lot. I used to cheap out on memory cards and go for ones that have a read and write speed below 100 megabytes, and they work fine, don't get me wrong. You can take photos, it records everything, and you're not necessarily worried about, I don't know, losing anything, but having faster memory cards really helps you take more photos onto the memory card and not worry about slowing things down. With the slower memory card, I've had occasions where I kind of go trigger happy with the camera and I have to wait for the camera to write the images to the memory card, which is definitely not something you want to do if you are in a situation where you need to take burst shots. So definitely invest in faster memory cards. That will allow you to just store the images a lot faster and not worry about missing a certain shot. And I think that's it. Other accessories worth mentioning are probably your phone and any kind of like a notepad where you can write down ideas for photography or any other craft. If you don't write down your ideas, you're probably gonna forget about them unless you execute them at that moment specifically. So that, and maybe a lens hood, but I don't really use them, so we'll stick with the ones that I did mention. That wraps up the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it's a bit more than 5 accessories, but I thought it might be useful for any aspiring photographers or videographers out there. If you do have any questions, honestly, drop a comment below. I'll be able to answer the questions in more detail if you want to. And if you did enjoy the video, give it a like. I'd find it useful to know that people do like the content. So on that note, have a great day, and I hope that this video brought you one step closer to being the photographer that you want to be. Take care.